All right, YouTube, what's going on? We've got a knife review for you today on this Vero Synapse. This is the Gen 2. There's the awesome packaging it comes in. Really nice. And here is your card. It tells you all about it, which I love this kind of stuff. So we've got the Synapse 2nd Gen. Joseph Vero is the designer. M390 black wash finish, marbled carbon fiber and black washed hardware. I love that. I love the presentation of these two. Like, it doesn't get much better. You know, you have this nice case with a patch on it. Really cool. Presentation, honestly, isn't as important to me as it is to a lot of people. It is nice. It's a nice touch. But I would rather, you know, I don't know. It's a nice touch. I'm not going to get into that too much. Anyway, so let's talk about the Synapse Gen 2. So what we've got here is, like I went over in the specs, a M390 blade with black wash finish on that, black wash hardware, marbled carbon fiber handle. It is a bolster lock, as you can see there, black wash pocket clip. I mean, this color combination is sick, like absolutely so nice, right? Available in lots of different configurations when they were available. That being the keyword when. As you know, with Vero Engineering, is if you've been following this channel and other channels, they're hard knives to find. They're not the easiest thing to get. They're very highly sought after for a lot of good reasons. But yeah, they're just not an easily obtainable knife. So I'm going to stop right here. And if this is something that bugs you, if you don't want to watch a knife review on a knife that you can go buy after this video, then this is not the video for you. However, if you're an enthusiast and if you appreciate high quality cutlery, knives, and like what's the better word? Small batch run knives, then this is for you. Let's do some size comparisons. Here's a Benchmade bug out. That's the new carbon fiber S90V. They're almost the same size as far as length. The bug out might have a tiny bit more handle to it. And I find that the size of the bug out to be just about perfect for my EDC uses. So how about the Pair 3 for a size comparison? Very, very similar in size to a Pair 3 as well. In fact, I mean, this Pair 3 does have aftermarket scales, but the thickness of the handles are also very similar, as you can see there. The bug out's definitely a lot thinner in the handle, but the bug out's a very thin knife. Let's see, what else should we compare it to? I've got the knife case handy. About the Quiet Carry Drift. This is the next knife up for review on the channel. It's a little bigger than the Drift. So I would consider this to be like a medium-sized knife. It's about, I don't know exactly off dimensions off the top of my head. I'm not going to worry about it in this video, but I think it's about around 4.25 inches long as far as the handle length. Blade length, we can do it here on the calipers here. I always find this hard to do on camera though. Yeah, it's just a hair over 3 inches on the blade, so we'll call it 3.25, just a little less than that. So it is not a big knife. It is what I would consider to be a small medium knife, and it's a good size. For me, it's like pretty much ideal for carry. It's the kind of knife that I like. So that's getting all the specs out of the way. Let's talk about the knife itself and how it performs. We'll talk about cutting. I think that's the most important thing personally for me in a knife, is cutting, how it does. And this knife is a really slicey knife. Like, it has a nice grind on it. It's very thin behind the edge from the factory. These are made by Best Tech, in case you guys didn't know. But behind the edge thickness on this guy is about 15 thousandths behind the edge. Look at that, 15.5. That's crazy, right? Production knife being that thin and slicey, I love to see it. I absolutely love to see it. So it's a thin, slicey knife. Just your traditional drop point blade shape with a little swedge here at the top. Really nicely done. So it cuts really well. You can see I've used the heck out of it. I've used this knife quite a bit. I wanted to leave the coating the way it was. I've cleaned it, but I haven't like really cleaned it, just because I wanted to show how it wears under a lot of use. This is a lot of cardboard cutting, mostly cardboard cutting, honestly, and that's usually what I do with my knives, so it's pretty typical. I think I maybe cut some zip ties and some rope, just, you know, for review purposes, but overall the coating's held up well. And I love black wash because it's like a stone wash. DLC stone wash essentially is kind of what it is in a lot of ways. And like a stone wash blade on a regular knife, it's gonna hide usage, right? It's gonna hide. You're not gonna see scratches. Same way with this black wash finish on DLC. Sometimes you can get some scratches and stuff that come up with a stone washing finish. It kind of takes that away. You don't see wear, so it's really good to use your knife. So the cutting performance is really good. How does the knife, how is the ergonomics? Because that's also very important right there with cutting. That's where things get a little iffy on this knife. For one, the design of the flipper tab, this has to do with ergonomics, that's why I'm talking about it, is a genius. Like absolutely probably one of the best designed flipper tabs I've ever seen. Just straight up and down. It barely comes, I mean, if you look at the way the line, if this didn't have that flipper tab there, you know, your handle would probably just come right here, right? So what he's done is had this cut out right here essentially for that flipper tab. And it works fantastic. We'll get into that in the action. But this also has to do with ergos because of the design of the flipper tab, it hides the flipper tab. So you don't have that flipper tab stab is what I call it. I just came up with that. No, not really, but you get that. Like the Hinder XM18 is a classic example of having that flipper tab that just kind of stabs my finger. The full size, not as much. The smaller XMs, I can't do them because of that very reason. And I find that sometimes flipper tabs can kind of ruin ergonomics on a knife. If I look at this didn't ruin it for me. I love this knife and I still do. But I would love it a lot more if it didn't have this little nub because I could put this choke up on this flat right here. Because of that tab, I can't, right? So with the Vero on the design, you know, you have that flat that you can choke up on, which is fantastic. So that helps a ton with the ergonomics of this knife. In fact, if it didn't have that, I would say it wouldn't be a very good ergonomic knife because it's a little small in the handle. What you can do is you have this gap right here. You can put my two fingers fit there. My third kind of chokes up here, right? That's super comfortable and a lot of control over the knife. I can choke back on that as well behind there. That's where things get a little less ergonomic, only because of the pocket clip. And I know this is a gripe on a lot of people on Vero knives in general is the pocket clip. The Axon has the same style clip. On the Axon, I didn't notice the hot spot like I do on, and you can see how they kind of bend up. The Axon, I don't feel the hot spot. Maybe a titch, but not really. I think it's because it's got a bigger handle, so it doesn't bother me. And he is offering a replacement clip right now for the Axons. So that is kind of a deal breaker, and not a deal breaker, but it was at first when I first got the knife. I got it in my hand and I was like, oh man, hot spot already from the pocket clip. The interesting thing is having to use the knife a lot and carried it and just used it, I don't notice the clip under use, which is super important. Like it's one thing if you're just holding the knife, but it's like when you get a good grip and you're actually using the knife, this grip right here is the absolute best for this knife. The jimping's right here, you're farther back, at least for my hands, and it's super comfy. It's nicely rounded on the scales and such, so and that pommel fits in there. It's just really comfy that way. If you just kind of hold it lightly and are kind of choked up like this, you'll feel that clip. But if you choke up here where that flat is, you don't feel the clip either. So I can absolutely 100% see this being a problem for a lot of people though. I really can, depending on your hand size and your palm size and all that. It's going to cause an issue. The great thing is Joseph Vero has listened to this and is offering on the Axon right now, and I've heard on the Synapse as well, a different clips design where it doesn't ramp up as much and cause that hot spot. So that's really cool. Ergonomically, that would be my only gripe is the clip. So let's talk about carry since we're talking about the clip. How does it carry in the pocket? Really nicely. I always forget to have my pants here. I mean, not pants I'm wearing obviously, but I don't have even a cloth. So let's try to demonstrate this on the Vero cloth, which might work. So pretend this is a pair of jeans or something. That's about how much you're gonna have sticking up out of your pocket. So not deep carry, but pretty close and totally fine for me. The clip is very snug. There's one thing that he did add on the new clips is a little more clearance as well. Or maybe it's less, no, I think it's more clearance on this. So I have no problem with these clips. I think they work really well. They slide into my pocket. When I wear jeans, they're usually like 5'11" Flex Defender jeans, for an example. No problem with the clip. As far as the retention's great and getting it in and out of the pocket. I have heard some complaints on that though. So carry-wise, it's small. It's not very heavy. .3 ounces. It's a light knife, so it's a great carry. Really nice EDC. Action. Let's get into the action. How is the action? The action's phenomenal. The flipper, like we mentioned, is so good. It's pretty much it's a really almost a drop shot action. Just a little gravity required there, but the flipper works so good, it's crazy. But here's where it gets awesome. Oops. Because I'm not a huge flipper guy anymore. Just so many of them out there. But I do love multiple deployments, and what Vero's done so well on his knives is this V-slot. It's not a full hole, but it's enough to easily get your finger in there to middle finger flick. The great thing about Joseph Vero is he's a knife enthusiast first before designer, and he likes this kind of deployment like a lot of us do, the middle finger flick. So what does he do? Gives you on one side the middle finger flick, on the other side, the blade looks better without that slot on there, right? And then you have the awesome flipper tab design. So action is phenomenal. This is on the factory bearings. I have not adjusted the pivot. I haven't touched anything. I just literally out of the box, this is the action, and it's gotten smoother as I used it. So I know a lot of guys will swap like skiff bearings and galleons, is that how you say it? Bearings in there, but Gillian bearings, not gallons, Gillian bearings. I don't find it necessary to do that, but you know, teach their own. So action is phenomenal. Aesthetics are, just look at it. That's all you got to do. That marble carbon fiber is beautiful. It's got a seamless transition here to the bolster. You've got a stonewash finish on the titanium, so it's going to hide scratches. The hardware matches. I mean, everything is great. Like, the aesthetics of this knife are fantastic. And what I love is the hardware matches, because so many times you see knives like this, and it'll have like one of the screws is not going to match the rest. In fact, I'm picking on Hinder here, but here's a good example. DLC stonewash finish. You got this just raw thumb stud. Like, why not just DLC this thumb stud, right? Same with this pivot here. Same with the lock bar insert. Like, things like that are weird to me. You know, why not just match it? This does it on everything, which is fantastic. So aesthetically, I think it's a beautiful knife. Looks awesome. So value. That's where things get super complicated. We're in the knife world right now. Value is hard. It's a hard discussion because a lot of these knives are so hard to get. Like this one, for example, and what they're going for in the secondary market. The drops are super quick and over in seconds. He is doing a new system with a reserve. The first knife to do that is the Axon. You can reserve one, guaranteed. For $50, you'll guarantee yourself an Axon. It might take 8 months to get to you because of the runs, but at least you're guaranteeing yourself one. So I love that he's doing that. That's going to alleviate some of the problems. But right now, this one's not available on reserve, and you're really only going to find it on the secondary market. Unless, yeah, and I think he's done doing all the drops and such on it. So that's where things get crazy. I've seen him go for, so table was around $3 for this particular model, I believe 360-ish, 350, 360. I got it for what I consider a bro deal, slightly more than that. Basically, he covered his shipping costs. That I loved. But I've seen him on the secondary market for well over $500. So that the value is very, it's a really hard conversation on this knife because it's just, it really depends on what you're willing to pay for it. To me, is it worth $500? No. Is it worth what I paid? Yes. Which is not that big of a difference, maybe $150, $120. But to me, that's really the max value. It is made in China by Bestech. Now, Bestech has done really well on the Veros. I've been impressed by the Axon, the Mini Impulse, and now the Synapse. And the quality is there. So don't fret over the manufacturing country here or the OEM because they did a fantastic job on these. So value, but again, value is really tough on this one. I don't think it's the best value, no, because of the secondary market pricing, because of the lack of availability. So maybe, you know, with the new reserve system, that'll drive those prices down, and the value at table is absolutely there. So that's how I'll leave that. So overall, guys, everything I do really like this knife. It's super hyped for me. I was really trying really hard to get one, and at first, my first initial impressions, which I didn't record, I just did an unboxing, I was a little disappointed in it because of this clip and just because of the side. But here's the thing: I gave it a try, put it through its paces for a couple weeks, carried it a lot, used it, and now I really do dig it. I still want to change the clip out. I still think that's an issue, but other than that, this is fantastic, and it's going to earn a spot in my regular EDC rotation, which is kind of, you know, I only have so many knives I rotate, and this is definitely going to make it earn a spot just because it's good. It's a good size. Love the action. Love the fidgetability. We'll call it that. The aesthetics, everything about it. The performance, the cutting performance is really good. So yeah, definitely earn a spot in my EDC rotation. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up this video. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think about the Synapse down in the comments below, and we'll see you next time.